PTF back with you, along with Mikey P and Ray Cotolo. I'm on the roof at Saratoga, which many people watch on Fox. Tell you what, Fox is going to have some special coverage on Friday night of Dan Patch Night. This is one of those standard-bred nights that thoroughbred players should really be paying attention to. Guys, I'll leave it to you to explain why. Mike, you go first. Just give us the basics on what's going down on Friday night on Fox on this Dan Patch Night.
Well, at Hoosier Park, the Grand Circuit arrives, and the Dan Patch Stakes, $300,000. It's older pacers, one of the bigger races every year on the calendar. Bulldog Hanover really kind of put this race on the map a couple years ago, and you can see Bulldog Hanover 145 and 4, the hat from the Western Fair District. So that horse was unbelievable at Hoosier Park in the Dan Patch several years ago. Nice race this year. We don't have any Bulldog Hanovers necessarily in this race, but this is always a huge handle night. Lots of big horses showing up, and it looks to be a great race.
Ray, what about a supporting card in terms of this night? Is it all about the big one, or are there some other ones we should be looking forward to as well?
That's what kind of makes the card interesting as well. So like on Hambletonian Day, for example, it's a card that's swathed with stake after stake after stake, but a lot of people can tune into Harrah's Hoosier Park and, lead up to this big race in race number 13, which also, has nice multi-race pools to bet into. There's a $30,000 guaranteed pick 4 that includes the Dan Patch Stakes, and there's also a $30,000 guaranteed pool in the Dan Patch Stakes. But otherwise, it's your hard hitters. It's a stakes card with just this race, a couple late closers inside, but then you're going to be looking at your claimers, your non-winners of however many. It would be like if there was the Travers and then the rest of the day were optional claiming races. So I think that also, makes it an interesting betting card in that way too, because you're also going to have these local scrappy guys probably being a bit more aggressive than usual.
That's a very interesting point. It will probably affect the form study. Knowing you two and the harness side over at In the Money, I have a feeling this little brief hit on the Players Pod and this video we're doing are not going to be the only coverage we have on this night. Mike, what else do we have to look forward to?
Live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Ray Cotolo, Jenna Otten will be there. Peter Kleinhans will be joining us. And so we're all going to be going over the whole card tonight, mostly focusing on the pick 4, late pick 5. We also might have an appearance by one of the owners of the more prominent horses in the race, Mr. Don Tiger. He owns Charlie May. That horse has made over $2 million. And Jacob Breinheimer also will be joining us from Harrah's Hoosier Park. He's on site there. He's part of the broadcast team. So that he's going to be able to give us lots of insight into those overnight races. It's a great setup for the roundtable. So join us tonight at 8.
And I like that you have the bucket hat in the photo. I do understand you eschewing the bucket hat for the very appropriate Bulldog Hanover hat. I will not give you too much of a hard time. Gentlemen, now is when the rubber meets the road. I'm going to ask you for a selection in the big race, and then we'll come back and do a second round. If you have something else on the card, it could be a tip or just a race you're really excited about. But let's talk about your idea of the winner, Ray Cotolo, of this year's Dan Patch.
Well, what's especially interesting with this race, I was trying to think of the thoroughbred comparison, is that the open pacing division now is in array. So I'm trying to think, would it make sense if, say, for instance, like in the turf sprint division, when Caravel started tailing off, and then all of a sudden everyone was like, who's gonna break through now? Who's gonna be the next big turf sprinter? That's pretty much where this free-for-all division is at, especially after Rock and Roll Runa pulled that 60, almost 70-1 upset in the Sam McKee Memorial on Hambletonian Day. And that's not necessarily to the discredit of many inside of the open pacing division. It was a cutthroat race. The pace was super hot. It was tough to close into. And Rock and Roll Runa just happened to be in a great spot. But this race is loaded with only Rock and Roll Runa from that stakes event. Otherwise, loads of other horses, some local to Harrah's Hoosier Park, like Buzzsaw Russ, the morning line favorite, Coach Stefanos, who was able to go a breakneck final quarter to win a Breeders' Crown elimination over this track last year. But otherwise, many horses that haven't really proven themselves to be these stakes caliber types just yet. And what's incredibly interesting, and I know Mike is kind of in the same ballpark as me, Charlie May gets back into this race. He got thwarted last year because Jay Hochstetler's horse decided to power over the field and pull off I think 11-1 or 17-1 upset. Charlie May, though, he's probably the only proven horse in this race. Others are still trying to find their way through the division, find what strategies might best work for them. I'm thinking of a horse like El Rey to the inside, who seems to have talent but hasn't found the right architecture in terms of trip to get the job done. But Charlie May, you see 12-1 on the morning line. I was talking to Mike about this earlier. There's no way you're going to get 12-1 on the morning line. If you get 12-1, that's Christmas before Christmas. So I feel like he has to be the most logical one, where if he's not the favorite, that's inherently value, because otherwise it's a fairly level race with many horses that are they just have a little bit more to show, and you really don't know what type of price you're going to get on them, at least this early in the game.
Based on that case, you would have to say, yeah, 12-1 would be bet of the year type stuff. But there's probably a lot of play between that and the actual price where we can still maybe eke out some value. Mike, are you reading from the same hymn book as Ray as far as a tip for the Dan Patch?
Well, anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge Charlie May fan. One of my favorite horses. Since he was 2 years old, I'm very familiar with the connections, and I've shown up to a lot of his races. I was at the Houghton last year at the Meadowlands when he won at 30-1. I was waving to everybody from the winner's circle, knowing that just as happy as could be. So I love the horse. So I'm a little biased, but his class, he's made over $2 million. So he fits in this race, and he was second in the Brower to a Buckabet Hanover. A Buckabet Hanover would probably be 3-5 in this race. Was majorly favored last week at the Meadowlands in that big pacing race. Now, Charlie didn't show up there. He's been racing at Opens at Scioto, coming from pretty far back with big kicks. He likes this racetrack. Now, the 12-1 morning line is going to tip a lot of people off. Everybody can see and spot a bad morning line. He's going to get action off that alone. Plus, the 10 post is the second tier at Hoosier, so not really as bad a draw as it looks on paper. As far as exactas go, I could see Coach Stefanos. He's a local type. Closer won this race last year at a big price. He's proven huge kicks over this racetrack. I think that he would be the alternate to Charlie May, but of course, there's no way that I would be getting off Charlie in this race.
Logical enough. Let's give a thought on another race of your choosing on the card. Ray, we'll send it back to you.
Well, I feel like the 11th race is kind of interesting. It kicks off a 50-cent pick 5 as well inside of this stakes card. Then the race after race 12 starts that pick 4. So you can try the pick 5. You get knocked out, you can bet into a guaranteed pool in the pick 4 that starts in race 12. But I'm especially interested in race 11 just because it has a lot of horses that I'm familiar with from Oak Grove. And so in a sense, I feel like I have a little bit of an edge then in knowing just who might have a slight edge, who might not have a slight edge inside of this race. I've watched Caption this race over that track, and he's a scrappy type, but that draw, I'm hoping maybe he still takes play because he's not the type that can really overcome that steep of a draw in spite of how much speed he might be able to muster early. River Ness, Mike is also familiar with this guy. He's an honest one. He gives pretty much the same effort each and every week. Sometimes he deviates a tad, but he seems like one that might be able to make some of the exotics a little bit interesting. The Serious Mickey, I hope, is another one that takes play because he loves to kick home super fast, but he's always too late. And so all this to say, this is a race where I feel like you could probably find some kind of a surprise. There's going to be some logical play going towards horses, maybe like Caption this, maybe like Serious Mickey, especially like Low Rider with the leading connections teaming up in Marvin Luna and Junior Haynes training. And that guy's been consistent at this level. So all I have to offer is, get creative inside of that race. I think the favorites, they're warranted, but they aren't unbeatable inside of that one to kick off the pick 5.
Mike, give us a thought on another race on the card, and then we will we'll get out of here and remind folks to check out that live stream tonight. And for lots more coverage on the standardbred side, on the thoroughbred side, folks need to go ahead and subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. Click that notification bell. You can kick it if you want, but I'd recommend clicking it so you don't miss any of our YouTube exclusive content. Mike, one more thought to close us out.
So race 12 starts that guaranteed 30,000 pick 4. Ray mentioned Jay Hochstetler. He has a horse in this race. He won the Dan Patch last year with a horse in an upset. The 7 Henry the horse, Big Kicks, is starting to round back into form. 26-3, 26-1, his last 2 races. I look for him to be flying late. He really likes this track.
Love that. We're going to leave it here, gentlemen, if only, and you'll only get this if you're watching on YouTube, because my arms are getting tired, but really appreciate your thoughts on what promises to be a fantastic night of racing. Play on your local ADW, watch on Fox, have a great time, and make sure to check out Mike and Ray and the rest of the In the Money Media team for much more.